Have you ever wanted to write a children's book that's not only beautifully written, but also something that publishers and readers want to purchase? Well, if that's you, you're in luck because today we're going to be covering the three essential things all children's books need to be successful. And these are the same things I've used to be a best-selling author as well as an award-winning author and publisher. So I know that these work. Let's dive in and take a look and find out what these three things are. Hey there. If we haven't met before, my name is Brooke Van Sickle. I'm an award-winning author, publisher. I'm the owner of Journey to KidLit, which is a global resource that helps children's book authors from around the world know how to write and publish children's books. But you might be surprised to hear it took me almost 20 years to see my first book in print. Now, it wasn't because I wasn't told that I was an amazing writer or I didn't have confidence in my writing, but for some reason, I just kept experiencing rejection letter after rejection letter when I first started submitting manuscripts. So I started to wonder what was wrong? What was I doing wrong? What was keeping me from getting this publishing contract? So I began studying hundreds and hundreds of children's books that were successful, from picture books to chapter books and novels, trying to figure out what was it about them versus my own manuscripts that was keeping me from getting published. What I found are three essential things, three main things that all successful children's books have in common, and that's something that we need to do too as writers. So let's dive in and look at each of these things. Starting with number one. The first thing that your book needs to do is it needs to invoke an emotion. It has to have something that's going to connect the reader, hook them into it, and make them feel like they're connected to these characters in some way, something that's going to keep them reading. And this emotion can be anything. It could be laugh out loud funny. It could be pulling at your heartstrings, something sweet, emotional. It could just be something where they raise their hand and say, "Yep, been there. I totally relate to that. That has happened to me before." It doesn't matter what the emotion is, it just has to be there. Now, you can probably think back to some books that have done this in your life. I can think a lot of classic books I read growing up, like The Boxcar Children, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, The Babysitter's Club, Junie B. Jones, you name it, I was probably reading it. But those books are older and they do not represent today's market and what's necessarily selling. So we need to be looking at recent comp books. So when I was doing this as a young writer, growing in my skills, one of those books that touched me on this was Dandy by Amy Dykman. It's hilarious, laugh out loud, so funny, and very relatable. Loved that story. Or The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld, also an amazing book. But you also need to be finding things that are recent to today. So something that was within the last 3 to 5 years. I have a list of books. If you get into Picture Book Perfection, download the workbook. The workbook comes for free. You can see my list. There's all these recent children's books if you need to get a list. Other books you can think about are Buffalo Fluffalo by Bess Kalb, The Penguin Huddle by Ross Montgomery. There's A Mountain in this book by Rachel Elliott. Those are really great books to start with too. But just go to your local library, go to your bookstore, look for books that have been published within the last 3 to 5 years. That's the best way to start. Okay, now the second thing is that you have to pick a specific moment in time for this character that we are peeking into as a reader. So this isn't a biography. Your book is not their entire lifespan. Your character will have a life before the book began and after the book ends. So why this specific moment? Why this moment in time for this character, this setting, etc.? Why do we care about it? Well, we call this phase gathering your story assets in KidLit Academy. And what it means is just really defining who's in your story, who's your main star, where's the setting? Where's the story taking place? And why do we care? Why are we here? What's the story goal or focus? What's the point? Those three things. Without those, you do not have a complete draft and you do not have a complete story that's going to work, that's going to get a publishing contract, that's going to resonate with readers. So you really need to do this and you need to make sure that it's specific. Being specific is the key word here because that's what makes it relatable, something you can connect with, something that is going to resonate. So really make sure that you develop those fully. All right, the third thing is you have to find a marketable idea based off of the idea you already have. We believe firmly here that your idea deserves a place on a child's bookshelf. It's why I founded Journey to Kidlit. But the way that we implement this idea, what we do with that idea is where the marketability comes in and where the saleability is, but for publishers, agents, and readers. And so we were talking about comp books a little bit ago, and that's where this comes in. Your books that are comparable to you, where your book will be shelved at a bookstore, is really important. You need to know what else already exists in the market. And more importantly, what about your book makes it stand apart from them, makes it feel needed, that readers are going to want to purchase it. So you really need to do your research and understand the market. Go and read books, go to the library and understand what's selling. It's really, really necessary to be successful. So those are the three things. Have an emotional hook, gather your story assets, and have the three things that make a specific story for this character that's only unique to you, that only you can tell. And then make sure that you have a marketable and unique approach. So whether or not it's a different perspective, a different point of view, a different angle, something where it's a void in the marketplace, that's going to make you the most successful. Now, I know this journey can feel really personal, it can be really hard. It's exactly where I was. I was in your spot. So if you have started to feel overwhelmed or like, wow, this is a lot more work than I signed up for, you're in the right place. We are here to help guide you. We have videos. You can pop up, go click on the next video that pops up and go watch that. But I know that once you apply these three things, your world is going to shift. It's going to make all the world of the difference. It's what turned me into an award-winning author. It's what allowed me to become a publisher of over 50 different titles that were award-winning, starred, reviewed, and how I've helped thousands of writers do the same thing. So I know it works. So make sure that you take the time to do this. Now, if today's video was helpful for you, leave a comment below, hit like on the video, and subscribe so you can get even more writing tips.